hurry?
There is an Elvis Presley movie marathon on this afternoon, and Clam Bake comes on at 2.
Oh, Clam Bake. Is that a movie?
Oh, it's a classic.
Oh, wow. Well, I didn't know you were an Elvis fan.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's really just all on the lip.
Welcome to another Collecting the King show. This is episode 32. And what you just watched was a clip from one of my films, Heavens to Betsy 2, which starred Jim O'Heir. You might recognize him from the TV show Parks and Recreation. He played a pastor in that movie. The reason I showed you the clip was I just wanted you to see how my Elvis world combined with my film world at one point. And Elvis, my love for Elvis, even shows up in the scripts I write. If you were interested in watching the whole movie, it's called Heavens to Betsy 2, and it's available on YouTube. So just go to YouTube and type in Heavens to Betsy 2, and you'll get to watch Jim O'Heir doing his Elvis impersonation. There's a lot of cool Elvis jokes in there as well that I thought was fun to make the pastor in the movie an Elvis fan. So, if you want to check it out. It's available, like I said, on YouTube. This show will be a little different from the usual format that we have where I examine record labels and 45s and all that. That's why I'm calling it Something for Everybody, because I'm going to be talking about a little bit of everything. I just had so many things on my mind. I thought, well, you know what? I want to talk about this. I want to talk about that and everything. So I figured, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do a show with a little bit of everything just for this particular show. And we'll get back to the format in the future. I do want to let everybody know we do have a show planned with Joe Tunzi. And Joe Tunzi was the guest on one of my earlier shows. Joe is going to be on the show talking about his new book, Elvis in Chicago, 1972. So be sure to be watching for that show. That'll be coming up in the future. I want to thank you all for all the well wishes regarding my health. I really appreciate that. Even though I'm a filmmaker, I'm kind of diving back into my roots with Elvis Presley. And, I've been an Elvis fan so long and did so many things with the books, the Presleyana books, and with collecting and selling and everything. I just love that. And it's a part of my life that I just, kind of just went back to after I had my surgeries and things started getting better. Don't know if I'm ever going to do another film. Maybe not. I don't know. But for now, I'm going to be doing what I love, and that is talking about Elvis. And that's what we're doing right now. Here's one from Walter. And he says, really loving your show, Robert. I would like to see a show entirely dedicated to the 3 pressing plants and the characteristics of the labels of each pressing plant. I would like to see some emphasis on the fact that all silver top roustabout LPs hail from the Hollywood pressing plant, as well as all 3 soundtrack albums with the expanded credits. Yep, all Hollywood. To be honest with you, Walter, I don't remember. I don't know if I ever really knew that. I mean, that's interesting information. I don't think I was ever really clear on that. I knew there was a silver label roustabout, and I knew it was harder to get than the white. But if it was exclusive to Hollywood, then that would explain why in the Midwest of the country it was a hard one to come by. Maybe they were still pressing the silvers, and the other plants, had progressed on to doing the white label top or the white RCA logo. Whereas Hollywood was still doing the silver. And it's interesting you brought up the thing about the credits, too. So he's referring to the 3 movie soundtracks that came out that way. And I never knew that. So, Walter, I appreciate you letting us know about that. Next one is Jules. Great show, Robert. Brought back memories from the few times I went to Elvis Week and the people I met there, including Al DeVoren, DJ Fontana, Scotty Moore, J.D. Sumner, Sam Phillips, Charlie Hodge, etc. I think the best storyteller was Sonny West. He was. Jules is referring to my last show where we were talking about Elvis weeks from the past, and I was showing video and pictures from shows as far back as 1988. But yeah, Jules, Sonny was he was my favorite out of all of Elvis's entourage, out of the people I met. And apparently you must have talked with him too. I talked with him several times because he did our show. He signed autographs, as you saw in the footage. And he was just fun to talk to. The thing about Sonny I think I liked the most was he was brutally honest. He did not care what anybody thought about what he thought about what happened in Elvis's life. He was very honest about what happened with the book, ironically, Elvis, What Happened. He talked a lot about that, and he talked a lot about his thoughts on what happened with Elvis and his father, things concerning Priscilla, and things of that nature. And based on my conversations with him, I could tell why he wasn't very popular with the people at Graceland, because he was, like I said, brutally honest. But yeah, he was. Sonny was my favorite guy. And I would have to say second running up would be John Wilkinson, who was also a really great guy, had a lot of great stories. And of course, that one particular story that he told me and Johnny B. and Carol, that, man, if what he told me was true, wow, what shockwaves that would send through the Elvis world. All right, moving on here. A guy named Klaus. Klaus, is that how you say it? Klaus? Carol, that'd be Klaus? Okay. All right, Klaus. Klaus? Okay. Klaus, whatever. Okay, he wrote, this was a good show, Robert, but I want to ask you, you talk about prices when you buy the record, but what is it when you sell a record? How can you get the right price for the record? I picked this one because this is a great thing to talk about. And of course, in the comments, I try to answer as many comments as I can. But this one, I may have answered it, but I want to elaborate a little more. Well, Klaus, this comes down to the same thing that everybody constantly has to understand about the Elvis market. It comes down to what one person is willing to pay and another person is willing to sell. Let's say, for example, you buy an Elvis album for $200. All right, let's just say that. And I know there's people out there that think $200 is a crazy price, but that's your opinion. The person who paid it obviously doesn't think it's a crazy price. Maybe he thinks you might be crazy because you didn't scoop it up when you had the chance. But anyway, that's another subject. I think that if a person pays $200, let's say you paid $200 for a record, and you go to sell it, the way I think would be that you want to make sure you get your money back. Number one, you don't want to sell it for less than what you paid for it. That would be crazy. So I would say if you have a record you paid $200 for, I would ask $200. Now, the exception to that rule would be if you got ripped off. If you paid $200, like on an eBay auction, for a Pickwick album, you're not going to get $200 for a Pickwick album. So you got to know your Elvis records. And that's where things like elvisrecords.com, the website comes in handy because of all the information, although there aren't very many, I don't think there's any prices on there, but the information is fantastic. And then the book, Presenta, which, by the way, you can order from me. Send me an email. You'll see the address at the end of the show. But that book is very helpful to tell you where things are as far as values. But it's a guide. Nothing in there is etched in stone. So if it says something's worth $500, and the last book, by the way, came out 7 years ago, then it's probably worth a little bit more now, unless, of course, more of them have been found. And I'll give you a good example of that. I've been noticing lately a lot of people have been finding clam-baked mono. I mean, there was a time when clam-baked mono was like up there. I mean, that was a biggie, I remember selling a clam-baked mono one time for like $500, and the guy didn't blink an eye. But this is back in the 90s. Before eBay. Now that eBay has come along and all these other things on the internet, clam-baked mono is pretty common. It's just not as rare as it used to be. I saw recently that someone found one with a promo stamp on it, and it was sealed. Now that's cool, I mean, any album sealed from the 60s is great. But if it's open and it has a promo stamp, that's pretty cool too. I would say that would give it some more interest or more value. But an ordinary clam bake mono even with the photo is just not what it used to be. So I know I may have got off the subject a little bit there, but basically, again, you know, just remember what you paid for the item and what you're willing to sell it for. If you find that it's going for a little bit more than you paid for it, then ask more for it. But you're going to have to find that selling point in either the price guides or on Facebook and different Elvis sites. That would be what I would recommend. But number one, never sell it for less than what you paid for it, unless you got ripped off. unless there was a Pickwick and you paid $200. I'm sorry. Another thing I wanted to talk about is it seems to me like almost every week there's another Elvis record coming out in Europe. I mean, holy cow. I mean, every 1972 concert or 1972 recording or whatever is coming out left and right and up and down. And, record companies like Memphis Recordings and DOL Records and some of these, European distributors, or dare I say bootleggers, they're putting out all this stuff in a massive amount of quantity. And I do want to explain why, in case I think I may have mentioned it before, but let's be clear about this. The copyright laws in Europe are different than the United States. So if an artist has been dead for a certain amount of years, then his recordings become public domain. Basically, it's 70 years versus 50 years. 70 years in the United States and 50 years over there, without going into great detail. And I'm sure this really pisses off people like Ernst Jorgensen, who's in charge of Elvis's recordings. So think of it this way: every year goes by, anytime there's an Elvis release from that time period, that material becomes fair game for everybody and anybody who wants to put out an Elvis record or an Elvis CD. But I'm telling you, the past couple years have been incredible. The amount of records that have come out from Europe they just keep coming and coming and coming. Johnny B collects it all. John will say, "Oh, there's a new record out." And what is it? Well, it's 72 concert. Okay, so but it's got a great picture of Elvis on it. And I think we talked about this, me and him, on a show. Everything to him is all about the pictures. I'm sorry, but I'm a true lover of his music. But, I mean, redundancy is redundancy, and that's what's happening here. We're getting a lot of the same stuff. So I pretty much pass on all of the imports and stuff that come out, unless there's something really special about them. And that's one of the reasons why I like FTD. I wanted to also talk about, there was a recent discovery worth noting regarding some copies of Memories of Christmas and the AQL1 reissue of Madison Square Garden, where the vinyl is transparent brown with a factory pressing matrix number in the trail off on the Memories of Christmas pressings. So basically what it is somebody noticed that when they took the record out, it looks like black, but when you hold it up to the light, it's like brown, because it's kind of like transparent. You can see through it. I haven't checked any of my records. I mean, I've got all those records, and I probably should have looked at it before I did the show to maybe show you, give you an example. But I thought that was really interesting. I mean, why did that happen, or how did that happen? Because I mean, black is black, but for some reason there are certain copies that when you hold up to the light, they look like brown and they're transparent. So I thought that was interesting. I just thought I'd mention that, so you might want to check out your collection, especially for the regarding the AQL1 of Madison Square Garden and Memories of Christmas, and there may be other ones around that time period too that were done that way. Why? I don't know, but worth noting. Next, I want to talk about something that I don't understand. I've been collecting records for many, many, many years. And I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying I've just been doing it a long time, okay? Well, recently I've noticed that there's been some conversations on ElvisRecords.com's Facebook page regarding label variations like a flat label with or without the small inner circle, a deep groove, a small groove, an outer groove, and all the others. And I don't know. I just noticed people are mentioning that a lot. I mean, to me, I really don't care. You know, I've been doing this a long, long time, and not once did I ever say, oh, look, the circle in here is bigger, so I want the bigger circle. Or, no, oh, this one's flat, so I want this one because it's flat. Is it just me, or is that a little anal retentive? Or I mean, are collectors just getting desperate for something to collect because they've got everything? I don't know. I mean, I'm not putting down anybody for collecting whatever you want. If you want to collect everything, you know, you want to collect shrink wrap that's perfect without a hole, God bless you, that's fine. But to me, it just seems a little excessive that people are saying, well, I've got the flat label with the circle, and I've got this with the little circle, and I've got this one with the deep groove, and I'm really not sure if that really makes them any more valuable. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just people are noting the difference. Because, boy, I'll tell you, when Discogs came along, you know, they marked down everything. I mean, numbers and plants and pressings. I mean, I thought Presleyanna was a little bit on the anal side when I first started working on the book. But as time went by, you know, it became less and less important to collectors. I mean, collectors just wanted to get the record. They wanted to get the first pressing and this and that. They didn't care if it came from Indianapolis or from Hollywood or Rockaway. They just wanted the record. So, I don't know. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I think it's a little weird, you know. But if that's the way you want to collect, that's fine. But me, I don't care if it's inner groove, outer groove, or whatever, just as long as it's the first pressing. And that's all I care about. And I understand that all three plats have first pressings. But I think when you start going into that, it gets a little crazy. I'm not calling you crazy, okay? Just saying it's a little strange to me. Now I want to talk about buying records and antique balls. Here I am at this is an antique mall that I go to a lot. And here's an Elvis record. This is Aloha from Hawaii. And that's my hand right there reaching in. And I'm showing you the edges. As you can tell, there's splits on the top. I think both parts of the gatefold cover are split. And you can see there's ring wear all the way around. And then down here, the bottom spine is pretty beat up and scraped up. And then also, if we take a look inside, all right, and here we go inside. It's a little hard to do with only one hand, folks. And we pull the record out, and I tried to get it in the light so you kind of see the condition. And if you look carefully, yeah, the record is trashed. I mean, there are a lot of scratches, and maybe you can't see it that well, but trust me, it's very, very poor shape. Okay, so the reason I'm showing you this, as soon as I put this back in, hey, look at that, one-handed. I can't believe it. That's really great. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here is the price. $14.95 for a totally trashed Aloha from Hawaii. I don't know what it is about people in antique balls. I mean, you know, number one, and I know a lot of people go to antique balls to find records. A lot of collectors do. But what is it about antique balls? I mean, these people don't even know what a price guide is, or these guys don't even care. I noticed that this one particular dealer who sets up at this one antique mall probably was born around the time when there were no records. All there was CDs, okay? So when the record craze kicked back in and young people started getting interested in records, if it's a Led Zeppelin album, or if it's an Elvis album or whatever it is, a Beatles album, I don't care if it's beat up or trash, it's worth $14.99. And what's crazy is you walk through the mall and you'll see other dealers that have records out and they're priced the same. Well, they must have went over and looked and said, oh, I got that album. Liberace's Greatest Hits, 2-record set. I know it's a little beat up, but it's got to be worth $50. He runs back to his book, puts $50 on it. I don't know. It's just insane. If there's anybody selling at antique malls, okay, and you're selling records, rule number 1, if it looks anything like the video I just showed you, where the cover's torn up and there's ring wear and the record's all scratched up, put it in a box for $1 and cross your fingers and hope to God somebody buys it. Because it's not worth $15. That's all there is to it. But see, this is where Presleyiana and price guides do have value. Because even though you may not agree with the prices, it's a guideline. At least, this guy could have looked in the book and went, okay, Aloha from Hawaii, mint condition, $15. And he would look at it and go, ugh, okay, that's not worth it. So, all right, $2. Condition is everything. Everything. And I think it's sad that the younger generation of future record dealers, some of them, especially antique mall dealers, don't understand that. So when you go and look for records and antique mall, good luck. Because the odds are you're not going to find anything that's going to be valued where it should be or in the condition it should be and for the amount of money they want for it. Carol and I went on a little vacation. We went and saw a friend's collection, and it was very, very interesting what I found in that collection. I'm going to show you a picture of a record that I sold back in, it had to be the late 2000s. I found a picture disc of How Great Thou Art. I found it on the West Coast when we were on a trip. And when I first found it, I didn't know what to make of it because I'd never seen a How Great Thou Art picture disc. I looked at it and I thought, this is weird. What the hell is this? Now, I knew in the 70s there were a lot of experimental picture discs made. Before I bought it, I checked the trail-off numbers. And this is where the trail-off numbers, of course, come in handy to know. And the trail-off numbers indicated that the music was a Legendary Performer Volume 2. Now, there was no way for me to play this from where I bought it. I was just going to have to take a chance and pay what they wanted. I brought it home, and lo and behold, it was. Experimental picture discs like this were made quite a bit in the 70s. And, of course, that's when the Legendary Performer Volume 3 picture disc was created. There was even a record called the Dancing Elvis record, where it was a bunch of pictures of Elvis going around the record, and other picture discs where they basically took an inner sleeve from Aloha from Hawaii and put it on the front and the back sleeve on the back, things like that. So here's what happened. I one day when I was on Facebook and I had my Sounds Good record page, Facebook page, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna show some cool things I sold in the past. So I put the How Great Thou Art picture disc on there, and I said, this is one of the rarest picture discs I've ever had. Of course, I've had the ultimate rarest, which would be the GI Blues picture disc, or GI Blues Loving You picture disc. And somebody made a comment and said to me, well, that's not real. That's one of those Paul Lichter specials. To which I responded to the guy immediately, no, this was legit. This has a Legendary Performer on it, and the matrix numbers match and everything like that. I had no idea what he was talking about. It's like, it almost seems like anytime something was discovered that wasn't normal and had run the chance of not being legitimately from RCA, Paul Lichter got blamed. Yeah, Paul Lichter did this, Paul Lichter that. In some ways, I feel sorry for the guy. His legacy will always be somewhere that he, even though he had one of the best-known Elvis collecting clubs of all time, people will always say, well, Paul Lichter made that, or Paul Lichter did this, or it's a Paul Lichter special. I'm looking at my friend's collection, and he says, have you ever seen any of these? And he pulls out a How Great Thou Art picture disc. And I looked at it and went, wow. And I looked at it and I says, what's that? And then I looked behind it, and there was a Double Trouble picture disc. Same way, front and back cover, although the covers were the same on the front and the back. But then there was another one, NBC TV special, and it had a little sticker on it stating what it was for. And I asked the guy, I said, so what are these? And he said, well, I got those a long time ago, long time ago from Paul Lichter. And all of a sudden this bell went off in my head. I went, oh, so that's what the guy was talking about. Right away, I looked for the matrix numbers, and there weren't any. There were some handwritten things on the edge, but it did not match up how great the art picture disc that I had. So I asked him, I said, can we play this? And so we took it to a record player, we put it on, and ironically, I think it was the music on some of the records that Paul Lichter had produced back in the 70s after Elvis died. So I asked, are they all the same? And he said, yeah. And folks, there were about at least 8 picture discs of Elvis record covers, front and back. I was just totally blown away by this because I thought, okay, what was Paul doing? Why was he doing this? And apparently, according to the sticker, it was never done to be a bootleg where he was trying to intentionally sell it as an RCA experimental picture disc. So to that person who, when he saw my RCA picture disc, you were right. There are picture discs like this that Paul Lichter made, but not the one I sold. The one I sold was a legitimate RCA test pressing. Speaking of picture discs, he had... When I first saw it, I didn't know what it was. I mean, obviously, it's a picture of the stamp that came out back in, I guess, 1993. And I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, okay, well, this must be one of those, post office things. Remember when the stamp came out, you could buy a post office thing and there were stamps inside and a little booklet, a little tribute to Elvis and all that. But then I turned it over and looked at the flip side. There was a picture of Elvis in concert, and then there was also some song titles to the left. And then I realized at this point that it was a record. I thought, wow, this is weird. So I pulled the record out, and it was a picture disc. So it was the same as the cover. I'm looking at this thing going, is this a bootleg or what the hell is this? I don't know. But the more I looked at it, I zoomed in on the back and I looked very, very close at the bottom, and it said Graceland, RCA. Now, I don't remember this being in Presleyana. I don't think it was. I don't think I've ever seen it before. So I asked him, I said, where'd you get this from? And he says, well, I bought it at Graceland. When the stamp was released, I bought it there. If anybody out there knows about this record and has a copy of it or whatever, please let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious because I've never seen it unless I might have saw it and just blew it off. That was another cool thing I found. If you know anything about that picture disc, let me know. All right, let's talk about the new FTD vinyl releases. This album behind me, this one right here, from Elvis Presley Boulevard. Okay, everybody knows about that. That came out, I don't know, a month or two ago, and it's on blue vinyl, or light blue vinyl, or sea blue vinyl, or sky blue vinyl, whatever. Anyway, that's colored vinyl. It even says so on the sticker. Well, in case you don't know, they're re-releasing this album because everybody was waiting for the next FTD release on vinyl, and it's going to be this album again, except this time it's on black vinyl. So the sticker that says blue vinyl will be off. Then after that was announced, then there's a rumor going around that they're also going to do clear vinyl. I mean, I had a lot of respect for Follow That Dream label, but it's kind of like, what happened? Did they run out of things to do? I mean, there's still plenty of albums that they could make, FTD vinyls that they could make that we would really want. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but do we really want a black vinyl Elvis Presley Boulevard? No. Maybe the clear one, but, this is money grabbing. That's the problem here. And I got to say, I'm a little disappointed in FTD for doing this because it reminds me of what the bootleggers are doing. Putting out the same product over and over and over again and just doing it in different color vinyls. Just like the Christmas albums. One is black, one is clear, one is snowflake. It's like, it's just milking the fans. Well, guess what? I'm not going to buy it. I think it's ridiculous because they're going to want $55, $60 for the black vinyl. If they dropped the price and said $24, okay, maybe. But it's not going to be like that. They're going to want top dollar for it, just like the Fun in Acapulco up there that you see, and the other FTDs that come out. I just can't believe FTD is doing that. This is the new How Great Thou Art sessions. Do we really need this? I mean, first of all, let's talk about this cover. I know that these people were very important to the How Great Thou Art sessions. I understand. I get it. But this is done very much like the first 2 or 3 that they did. I think it was Viva Las Vegas and Kid Galahad or Fun Acapulco. The front cover looked like a UPS package, And then what they do is they save the cover for inside on the book. Now tell me, wouldn't that look like a better cover? Take the blue sticker off of here and put it on this and make that the box. I was listening to some of this, and the only good thing about this is the recordings that were not gospel, in my opinion. There was a time when RCA or Follow That Dream was doing this thing where they would say outtakes, and they would do a release and they would add like the best of the outtakes of that song. Well, folks, that's all over with. Now you're getting everything. If Elvis farts in between a song, you will hear the fart. That's how this is. They're releasing every single song and sound that's coming out. Okay, the fart, I'm exaggerating, but you understand what I'm saying. I don't know. I listened to, I think, 1 disc or 2 discs. I'm just not thrilled with it. I do love the fact that there's an alternate take of Tomorrow's Such a Long Time, one of my favorite Elvis songs, one of the best songs he ever recorded, written by Bob Dylan. But I'm sorry, this is just, to me, a waste of time. I don't know. All right, that's enough. I'm done talking about that. So let me talk about another one that I think is a waste of time. Ta-da! How about this one? Let me make sure you understand. This is from FTD, right? FTD. This is Sony Legacy. This is FTD. These are both Aloha from Hawaii. So you may be thinking, why would they release it twice? Well, this is where it needs some explanation. This is FTD, Follow That Dream, okay? And this is basically available in Europe. So it's a little harder to get this in the United States. You can get it, but it's definitely harder to get, okay? Now, everything that's on here is probably on here, I would imagine. But this is RCA Legacy. And this is available to the commercial public. So you could actually go in a store and find this. Good luck, by the way. You go into a store and you say, hey, you got the new Elvis record? Yeah, we don't get Elvis because he doesn't sell. Well, you dumbass, I'm here. I would have bought it. That's the difference, though. I mean, it may seem like a redundant thing, but it's not really redundant. It basically is, this is an FTD release of Aloha material, and this is the one for the commercial public, the U.S. release. All right. So, yeah, it is redundant because it's basically the same thing, but at least they threw a Blu-ray in here. I haven't really had time to watch the Blu-ray, but you can still see the fuzziness from it being shot on video. So I doubt very much that there's it's any better than the DVD that came out years ago. If you've got the original DVD book that came with the DVD, keep that. That's the one that you should keep in favor of this. But this was very expensive. This is not cheap, even for something that's not Follow That Dream. And I know they packed it up. The book is real nice and everything, but again, I don't know. So basically, just wrapping it up on that subject, you have to understand that, if something comes out multiple times, you have to understand there's an FTD release, and then Sony may decide to release it domestically or a legacy release. So it seems like a lot of releases, but it's not really. Okay, one last thing I wanted to mention about Al DeVorn, his personal collection that I'll be selling. I do want to remind you that on any of the earlier shows, the Viva Las Vegas show or the Elvis on Tour show, if you haven't watched them, go back and watch them, because any of the items that I showed you, if you're interested in those items, you could contact me at collectingtheking.com, and I will, let you know what I have available and how much it is. I have already sold several of his items that way, and I can still do that. However, I was thinking on the more personal items, like the letter I showed you on the last show, That's more of an auction type item. So I'm going to be putting those kind of items on eBay. And that will be stuff that has autographs from the Colonel and odds and ends of different things that are more historical to Elvis's background and Al DeVorn's participation in Elvis's tours. So that about wraps up our show. We'll also be having a show coming up soon with me and Johnny B talking about Friday music releases. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Click the like button. Ring the bell. Make Nipper happy. Should I get rid of Nipper, folks? Do you think I should get rid of Nipper? Somebody actually made me an offer for Nipper. I got an email once and they said, how much you want for Nipper? I can't sell Nipper. I mean, this is an original. For those of you who don't realize it, Nipper, bring Nipper over here so he's a little more in focus. This, folks, is an actual Nipper dog. I got it from a record store, I guess in Wisconsin is where it came from. But it's kind of old and scraggly and everything, but it is worth some money. And no, he's not for sale. Sorry. That's it, folks.